Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Deborah Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light.
In just a moment, the Morning Light panel will go behind the headlines.
That is right. But first, here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. How a central Pennsylvania shelter is helping women and children get back on their feet. Plus, we'll hear from a woman who will share her journey and how the program helped her restore and strengthen her relationship with God.
But it is Monday, August 19th. Here are the headlines driving our conversation this morning. 64 years ago this month, Pennsylvania was the keystone in the battle for the White House, with both Senator John F. Kennedy and Vice President Richard Nixon campaigning in town squares and city arenas across the Commonwealth. This past weekend, both former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris were back here in Pennsylvania because, just like 1960, state voters are likely to decide the outcome of the national election. But with politics cruder and coarser in 2024, what hope can we give to young voters that it doesn't have to be this way and that politics can be a contest of ideas, not insults?
And as my pastor said yesterday, pray for peace and remember God is in control.
That's right.
In the meantime, in the lead up to today's opening of the Democratic Convention in Chicago, the Associated Press reports the Harris Waltz ticket campaign in Western Pennsylvania, while former President Trump rallied supporters in Wilkes-Barre and is scheduled for a stop in York later today. As both campaigns promise a focus on policy, insults like coward and weird still dominate the headlines. If candidates won't stop, what can be done to prevent politics from really tearing apart families and entire communities?
It's something we have to figure out as communities. Well, maybe you missed it, but last week some 6,000 Baltimore Orioles fans participated in the first ever post-game faith night at Camden Yards, as members of the team led worship and gave witness to their relationship with God. This comes as several members of the U.S. Olympic team said their success as athletes is rooted in a relationship with Christ. So, with a new school year underway, how can student athletes be centers of encouragement and hope on and off the field? We'll take these questions to the Morning Light panel this morning. We're welcoming former Secretary of Corrections John Wetzel, Jessica Meade, we're honored to have you as well, and Jeremy Samek of the Independence Law Center. This is a special time to be launching a new program, and it's in the middle of really one of the thickest, ugliest, low-down races that we have seen in a long time for President of the United States. The question is, we talked about 1960 at the top of the program, was very different times when people would come out to the town square, come out to Harrisburg or Wilkes-Barre or my old haunt, Katanning, Pennsylvania, and stand to cheer for Nixon or Kennedy, even if they didn't support them. Jeremy, what has happened to the culture that really only supporters show up, and it's a line right down the middle of Pennsylvania?
I think a lot of it, there's a lot of reasons, but I think some of it is the media. You see things so quickly, and you see so much of it. You're drinking from a fire hose, and so people
snap judgments.
Yeah. People haven't changed. Thousands and thousands of years. I think there's nothing new under the sun, but we see more. It used to be that the media wouldn't report every single bad thing that was there. There was only so much press space. And so they would only report on certain issues going on or maybe policy positions. Now you kind of get it all. And now it's all about what kind of clicks are we getting. So we're going to see more of that negative type of information, the more low down dirty stuff. And I think as individuals, we just need to say, take a step back and say we're not going to engage in that part of it and get back to the civil discussions about what's the best policies that can make the good of our city better.
Yeah. You're a mental health counselor, Jessica, but you're also a mom. So when you look at these issues and your kids are seeing maybe for the first time a political campaign and they're saying what they say, words that you're not allowed to use in your own home,
right.
What do you tell them about ways to guide them through this period without getting cynical about the process of being a citizen?
Right. One of the things in our home is there are lots of words that are thrown around that we don't use. And so we would like to remind the kids, especially, and ourselves, that we are called to a different standard than maybe the world is. As Christ followers and believers, we are called to kind of portray those fruits of the Spirit. And so we are going to use kind words in our home, even if it's about something that we don't agree with. And so I think it all starts with us. And if we can model that for our kids, if we can model that for their friends and even the people around us, I think that would go really far.
Start.
It would.
John, you've been a public figure. You've been on all sides of public scrutiny. You've gotten a lot of angry letters and emails and maybe a death threat or two along the way. Can you confirm that?
Oh, the good old days.
Yeah. So how do you help people see presidential candidates not as just objects of scorn? These are public figures. How do you help the public, our viewers, understand them as people who may have different views than you, but they're still people?
Yeah, it's difficult for me to understand looking at it any other way. I mean, in January, one of them is going to be our president.
Yeah.
And frankly, we need all of them to help restore the kind of civility required to have the difficult decisions around policy. You know, I think it feels like they're tailoring to these emotional arguments, 5-second clips instead of the kind of substantial conversations we need. It really, you know, I think in the Bible it talks on the house built on sand. You know, it's really emotional, superficial rather than. So I would really encourage folks to really think about the issues and try to interpret the rhetoric with really what impacts their lives day to day, and it's really critical in their communities.
The house divided against itself cannot stand, said Lincoln. Jeremy, how do you help people that you work with, your clients, organizations, navigate this moment? What do you tell them so that they are not in total despair? Because I hear it all the time. People say, you know what, I just turn it off. I can't do another minute of these political candidates. How do you help them say, no, you need to tune in, and here's why, and here are the questions you should be asking of your candidates?
Yeah, I think the first thing is I would explain that we need to look at these issues not in a, there's so many problems in the world, I feel overwhelmed. It's where has God placed me? What is the sphere of influence that I have? So when I'm communicating with my neighbor, when I'm communicating with my children, or when I'm communicating with somebody who doesn't agree with me, that's the sphere of influence that I have. How can I make that better? If each person was doing that, then we're going to have a better world.
So
right
the
out of
person in front of you is kind of what you're saying.
The person in front of you, crucial. And then take the issues that matter. They may be hard issues to talk about. They may be the controversial issues. And being civil doesn't mean we avoid the controversial issues, but it means that we speak about those issues in a loving way and a respectful way.
Just take a minute, just as pretend that we're all 11-year-olds here in the audience today, and looking at this. How do you help young families who not be completely discouraged by this moment and not get involved and say, you know what, I know what my responsibility is, but I'm not doing this. It's too stressful.
It's so hard, and I really like Jeremy's analogy of drinking from a fire hose. And so what I would tell parents is, we need like the garden hose. We all probably grew up drinking out of the garden hose, which is now controversial, but just that idea of slow it down. And so for our kids,
slow it down.
Just slow everything down and bring it to their level, because they're seeing those 5-minute clips and they're seeing those really controversial things. And it is very overwhelming. It gives this false sense of urgency, false sense of like, we have to do something immediately. Everything just needs to slow down. And we need to just slow that fire hose down to a trickle or to even a sprinkler.
That's a beautiful metaphor. John, you were appointed by a Republican governor. You were continued under a Democratic governor, so you've been pretty bipartisan in all of this. What should a Democrat know about a Republican and a Republican know about a Democrat that could help them survive this year so that, like 1960, it doesn't just completely shred the community apart? Because that's what's happening.
Well, you know, I tell you, but I'd rather if they just kind of sat in a room with someone who has a different letter behind their name and have a conversation. The overlap, if you build a Venn diagram of the real issues that impacted people, there's an 80% overlap. We can't translate it because we speak different languages. Both sides continue to use this extreme language. So it's difficult for people to understand what the other person.
Weird or extreme
or
crazy.
That's interfering. Name calling is interfering with understanding, I believe. Anything emotional is, frankly.
Yeah. I want to pivot. A final question. I want to give some hope to people today who are sending their kids back to school. And the sports is one of those places where you can make a real difference. A lot of kids don't often see sports though as a ministry. How can you look at, if you're the Christian kid on the team, We've heard these great Olympic stories. We've just got a couple minutes. I want to hear, what should the view be about being the Christian kid on the football team, on the basketball team going into the fall?
Yeah, I get the pleasure of working with lots of Christian student athletes in my career, and I'm also a coach. I coach middle school basketball. And one of the amazing things about athletics, unlike many other things in a kid's life, is your failures and your successes are right there for a lot of people to see. And so there's lots of opportunities, not just in your successes and you've won the championship and you get to praise God, but how do you lose? Right, that's right. And so if we lose well and we win well, that's being a winner. And we can point people to Christ in the way that we do that, and you can build off of that and have other wonderful conversations with classmates because they're seeing how you respond to adversity right there for all the public to see.
John, does it make a difference having someone who's got love in their heart and kindness, but it's an outgrowth of faith on a football? You're a football coach.
Yeah, this is, my brand is being unbiased. I'm not unbiased with this at all. I'm a football coach at Elko High School. And yeah, it makes a huge difference. You know, our team, our culture is built around leadership and developing young men and women. The coach's daughter actually was an all-star on our team last year, believe it or not, wide receiver. But the coolest part of our team is if you go before a game or after practice, you'll see either the Bible study or the pregame prayer.
Really?
Our team is built around our youth for Christ, and frankly, most of our players love for Christ.
30 seconds, Jess. Advice to parents going into sports really intimidated by it, saying they're going to get overwhelmed by the locker room stuff. How do you tell them, be a witness, be a light? 20 seconds. 20
seconds. I think I'm going to go back to what I said before, slow down. And so for the kids, let your yes be yes, let your no be no, and just, even if you're not outwardly professing Jesus, people are going to see a difference in you. Just live that way.
Friends, this has been fun. I hope you will all agree to come back tomorrow for another conversation, because this has been very, very helpful. Democratic Convention, day one, so we'll have a lot to talk about. Well, thank you to our panel for joining us. Coming up on Morning Light, a Christ-centered house of refuge is making a difference for women and children in need, giving them time to heal and offering a new life. We'll talk to the director up next. But first, good morning to Lehigh Christian Academy in Allentown. Thank you for watching Morning Light.
Homelessness is a real problem in the United States, according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. More than 653,000 people experienced homelessness in the U.S. last year. Nearly 40% were women, and this is due to a number of reasons: domestic and substance abuse, unemployment, or loss of a spouse. Some women may not realize that there is a place to go that offers shelter, food, and most importantly, love. One of those Christ Center ministries is located in central Pennsylvania. Joining me is Shelley Brooks, director of the Bethesda Women and Children's Mission. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, Deborah. Good to be with you.
So tell us about the Bethesda Women and Children's Mission.
A place where God provides so much in one building. Bethesda Mission has been in Harrisburg for over 100 years. The women's shelter has been in operation for a little bit, 41 years. We are a program of change, a godly program of change, that will help a woman and her children choose a new life if she chooses, that will include not only food, shelter, clothing, but programming, issues that will deal with drug addiction, human trafficking, and homelessness. Really, women come to our facility with an array of issues, and we offer them the love of Christ and ask them what do they want to do, and we help them to move to the next step of their life.
So it seems like you do offer them so many different things. What types of stories are you hearing from the women and children that come into the shelter?
We've gone in phases or seasons. Initially, we just dealt with women with homelessness. But of course, other problems came with it: domestic violence, drug abuse, human trafficking. Now we're looking at baby boomers who don't have enough retirement and to live. And we're finding that many of our clients now are people over 40, over 50, 60 years old, 70 years old, looking for a place to live because they do not have enough income from their retirement or Social Security to find a place today in this area that they can afford to live into an apartment.
Oh my goodness, that is certainly a change. Talk to us about the mission's goal.
The goal is, of course, with the love of Christ in the forefront, is to serve those in need when they come to our doors, whatever that need is. We will try to provide if we cannot help them, solution, a referral will give them to find a need. So when people come to us, we just don't say hello, we don't have something, goodbye. We'll try to listen and then direct them to the right place if we aren't the right place. But our goals are certainly to serve our community, to serve men, homeless men, women, and children, and young people through our community center located in central Harrisburg.
And we were talking earlier and you were sharing your journey with me. Tell me how you got involved with this.
Almost 40 years ago, I just felt the call of God telling me to come. And I came not knowing what a mission was, not knowing the need, not knowing that women were that severely abused in our community. And after about 2 weeks of being there, the former director said, what do you think? What do you think about being there? And I said, this is where I'm supposed to be. God has called me there and God will call me out of there. And that was almost 40 years ago. And I still love my job. I love the drive. I love seeing God move in people's lives, touching their heart, and seeing the difference of when I came to the mission, what's my life like when I leave. It's not perfect. There are struggles, but there are support, there are people that come alongside that will help you to get to where you want to be, and it's a better life in Jesus Christ.
Well, it certainly is a journey, but what type of mission or what type of difference, should I say, do you feel like you're making with the people that are going through the shelter?
I think every social service makes a difference. I think with Christ, it makes the ultimate difference. No matter what the facility is, if they are operating by their policy to serve, then people are being served. We at Bethesda Mission serve a lot of people that community doesn't want to be bothered with or community forgot. We serve issues that really, we talked, the panel before talked about the candidates. People need to look at what candidates are dealing with homelessness. It's not normal. Domestic abuse, it's not normal. Human trafficking, it needs to stop. What are we doing? And that's what Bethesda does, is take those types of issues, introduce Jesus Christ to the equation, and help to change a world, change our community.
And you are making a difference. Shelley, I want you to stay with us because we're going to be talking with you in the next segment, and that's when we will hear from a woman who has spent the last year at the shelter. She will share her journey in just a minute. Welcome back. God can help us overcome any situation we go through. The Bethesda Women and Children's Mission walks alongside women and children in need, showing them that they are never alone. Back with us is Shelley Brooks, Director of Bethesda Women and Children's Mission, and Latasha Winston. Thank you both for being here, and thank you for being back with us, Shelley. Latasha, you have been at the shelter at the mission for a year now. Talk to us about that.
Yes, well, it's been a great experience. Being there has brought me closer to God. I always had a relationship with the Lord, but now I have a personal relationship with the Lord. Being at the mission, just really going to devotions and reading His Word.
Tell us about your journey. What brought you to the mission?
Well, I was really struggling with some addictions and homelessness, and I have two daughters, and I called. I said, "Do you guys accept kids?" And they said yes. So that was really a blessing because a lot of programs don't accept kids. And then I just made my way to Harrisburg and came to the mission.
When we were talking earlier, you had mentioned that you were having problems with relationships. Talk to us about that.
Well, I experienced domestic violence, unfortunately, just, you know, not a good choice in men, and physically was abused. And that just caused a lot of issues with my mental health and depression and not thinking I was worthy. And finally, I got out that situation.
You had mentioned that you did grow up in the church, then you drifted. Really, what pulled you back?
Just wanting to be a part of the world. You know, just wanting to be somebody that I wasn't, instead of just really embracing the calling that God had over my life. I was running from it. So I was trying to see what was out there in the world, and it didn't work for me. So I just came back to Christ, and I'm never letting him go.
And you did tell us a story about your name. Why don't you share that with us?
Oh, yes. Well, people call me Tasha. And when I came to the mission and I became closer with Christ, he told me to let people know that my name is Latasha. Tasha is not a person that I am. Tasha is a person of the world and didn't know herself and didn't love herself. So I have people call you by your name, which is Latasha. That's my name.
And that's a beautiful name.
Thank
and
you.
I see you smiling, Shelley. Just, you know, what changes have you seen in Latasha?
Oh my goodness, so much growth. The first week that she came to the mission, we went to the beach. And she tried to run the show. She tried to run the program. She was trying to tell us what to do, what she wasn't going to do. And I thought, this is a gift because we don't get to do this often, and this is not going to be a mess. So we sort of had to come to heads that she was going to follow our program or it was time to go. She wasn't going to leave. So we came back, and I watched Latasha grow in her faith. I watched her pay attention to her daughter and then provide good parenting skills to her daughter. She is getting ready to start school next week, to go back to school. Wednesday and Thursday, she's taking classes. We already talked about what support she needed. She's already has that in place. She has a job, a part-time job, which she works. And this is not the same person that walked in our doors. And we love Latasha. We love her. She's been the meals that she cooks alone will draw you in, but also her personality and her love for Christ will also draw you in.
Yes, congratulations, Latasha, on everything that you have done and your accomplishments. What message can you give to our viewers today?
Well, I would just say, don't be afraid to speak your truth. Don't be embarrassed about getting help. Just reach out and be honest with yourself, and most importantly, be honest with God, because he can restore and renew you every day and make things better.
And he certainly has.
Yes.
Thank you both for being with us
Thank
today.
you so much for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And there are many ways for you to help the Bethesda Women and Children's Mission. For more information on how you can get involved, go to BethesdaMission.org. Good morning, Dolphin. This replica of the Statue of Liberty has become a staple for motorists traveling to and from Harrisburg on Route 322. It was first erected there by Gene Stilp in 1986. We will see you back in 1 minute. Good morning, Philadelphia, home to the Phillies, Eagles, and Flyers. Thank you for watching Morning Light on Lighthouse TV. Coming up tomorrow on Morning Light, are you feeling lonely? Well, you're not alone. We have become increasingly connected on social media, but many feel more isolated than ever. We will have tips on how you can guard your heart against the dangers of social media in our Body and Soul segment. Plus, beauty on the water, how to reel in and catch God's calling. Well, Jeff, that's a look at what's coming up tomorrow. Now, your closing thoughts.
Well, it's going to be a great show. Look, we started today talking about politics getting in the way of friendships, relationships, and ultimately our Creator. The noise of 2024 has already robbed us of a whole lot of peace and so many opportunities to do good. But there's a different way, and I think it's probably best expressed by the founder of Pennsylvania, William Penn, when he was warned by King Charles II that the land he wanted contained uncivilized savages. His answer? Let us see what love can do. Now, you may think your neighbor's views are, well, a little savage. You may think there's nothing redeemable about the way they live or think or worship. But if we really want to change the world, imagine doing what William Penn did here when he arrived 342 years ago. See what love can do. God's love through you. That changes everything. That's what this program is all about. For Deborah and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for starting your day with us. We'll see you again tomorrow.